Why were you looking for Dachau at that point then?
After the orders came to proceed to Dachau.
Oh, okay.
I never heard of that until the orders came to disregard the previous order and proceed to Dachau.
Did you all know anything about the Dachau and the concentration camps?
We knew there were some camps. We knew Schwarzenegger's daddy. His name came across my desk in a number of times. Was at Buchenwald. He was the most brutal camp commander.
Are you talking about our president of California?
Right.
Okay. His dad
From
was
Austria.
Okay.
Yeah. And of course, that took on a big dimension. When we got close to Dachau, that's when the Germans got stronger.
Utah Beach, that's almost sheer straight up.
Straight up.
And obviously a good commanding officer on the German side would have machine gun nests all over there waiting for you all.
Well, what happened was we recognized when we started assembling that machine gun nest was to our right. And we recognized, we managed, I had two companies, I assembled two companies, and we managed to get behind them. They didn't recognize that we was on the beachhead. They figured none of us was safe or had lived, but we scattered all over. So we got behind that two companies of German machine gun nests, and we started mowing them down.
But how did you get up? How did you get up the mountain?
What actually happened? We had a rope. We had some ropes. We had got our hands on. And when we circle around in the back, they start climbing, my soldiers start climbing up, and then with the rope, and then start putting the rest of us up. And then we got down behind them where we could see them, and they never saw us. And that's where we silenced those machine gun nests.
How many machine gun nests do you think they had up there?
It was 2 dozen.
2 dozen?
Right at 2 dozen.
Okay, and at this point in time, the black soldiers, you're still pretty much with all your black soldiers.
Right. Well, the white boys didn't want, that was another thing. Even when we were dying, our soldiers were dying and whatnot, the whites still wanted to feel like they were superior.
Well, even in death, they wanted
to make like they was in charge, but it wasn't near that way. And of course, as I say, the Air Force was just above us, and they was coming in, scraping and bombing and whatnot. And a lot of our soldiers were killed by their own forces.
But now, if you're being wiped out, how many of those machine gun nests do you feel the black soldiers actually wiped out?
All of them.
All 12 of them?
All 12 of them.
If that's the case, then Mr. Simmons, it looks like your black company or your black battalion of soldiers should have been credited with wiping out and saving the rest of those people's lives on the beach.
Dr. Anderson, we never got, I had some of my soldiers, gunners, and whatnot, who came with me all the way. They never had 2 pairs of shoes in their whole life. I remember one of my best gunners was from Yazoo City, Mississippi. And of course, they died right in that camp. And it was a thing that...
And after you get through Paris now, 2.5 weeks are gone, what new orders did you get at that point?
Well, we was on our way to the Battle of the Bulge.
Now, this is the Battle of the Bulge. That means by now that the Germans had mustered a counter and trapped most of the white soldiers up in the Battle of the Bulge.
Well, they had reorganized. The Germans had reorganized a whole army, 250,000 men. They were determined that we wasn't going to get near the German territory. And that was the Rhine, near the Rhine River.
They didn't want you to cross that Rhine River?
They didn't want us to cross that Rhine River. Well, the Russians was coming in from the Eastern Front through Auschwitz, Poland. And of course, Hitler was caught in a vacuum there. And we started to slaughter them successful. But they fought to the very last.
Now I know that the Americans, the white Americans, were trapped in the Battle of the Bulge for a long time,
Right.
and they become very almost like hopeless because the Germans were trying their best to wipe them off the face of the earth.
Well, some of them managed to get into my outfit.
So they got
I
in
took
your
them
outfit?
in. Well, I never shall forget. We was east of the part of Belgium. I forget the little town. They had changed the directions. But I detected that something is wrong. Well, they had, I guess, 2 companies of white soldiers with American uniforms. But what I noticed that they had screw-cut haircuts, and most of them were blonde. Then I looked at some of the pants legs; it was too long. They were directing us into a trap.
So those weren't Americans; those were Germans.
Yeah, in American uniform. And we never found out how they got all those American uniforms.
So how did you deal with it when you found out?
I discovered it, and my chief of staff discovered it. We were suspicious of it. And I went into a huddle we had them at bay. And I said, we better take them. And that's all I said. So we did. And to the rear guard, we got over to the rear guard to come get them.
How many now, again, for a second question, did the Army at any point give the black soldiers, and you in particular, and the black soldiers in general, credit for, again, having saved a lot of American soldiers and white soldiers in general?
We never got nothing. I went to Washington, to the Pentagon. I reckon Ms. Roosevelt was the only one that spoke about before she died. You should recognize the black soldiers. And we had, most of us, they didn't have much of a record that we was there. That was the most interesting part. I was in the Pentagon trying to get some of my records. And I got just some excerpts. And my first wife, I had a few copies of my records and whatnot, and it was destroyed. But most soldiers, the airmen, they played an important role. We never could get no record where we even was in the service. That was the most interesting part about it.
So just for our record and our taping, tell me exactly, give me the names of all the units, the black units that played a pivotal role, including yours in particular, in the invasion of Europe and the D-Day invasion, as well as a role in going throughout Germany and to a final victory.